Want to talk to you about Israel. We had thousands of protesters turning out in Tel Aviv this week to call on Israel's Conservative Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stand aside and to resign. He is not popular at home, Joe. Why is that? Is it because of the number of deaths that we've seen, the way the war has been managed, the 30,000 civilian deaths in 150 days?
He is right now, and has been for many, many months, the most unpopular politician in Israel. He has an approval rating of 15%. Well, Damian, you and I can get 15% walking down the Queen Street Mall. You don't need anything to get 15%. It's very, very unpopular. And while the Israeli people are determined to get rid of Hamas, they're also determined to get rid of this guy. So sooner or later, he knows he's going to go, and he's got a war strategy here that's going nowhere. It's and of course, that attack on October 7th, while Netanyahu had his head in the sand trying to change the judiciary, I blame governments completely if there is an intelligence failure, whether it's Pearl Harbor, whether it's 9/11, whatever it is. If there's a terrible attack and the intelligence community lets you down, the president or the prime minister has to take the blame because they're at fault here.
So is it because of that? I mean, is that why people don't like him, or do they not like him because he's so hardline in the way that he's handling the war, or are they happy with the way that he's handling the war and it's more just, that they don't like, they don't have faith in him because he let that happen?
They've fallen out of love with this guy. It's been around about 21, 22 years.
Yeah.
They didn't like him before the war started, okay? What he had on October 7th was he was asleep at the switch. And Hamas came after those villages there, with all the intensity that terrorists tend to have. And so, he responded. And of course, he's at sixes and sevens right now with the American administration. And Netanyahu is determined to occupy all of Gaza when the conflict is over. He looks like he's determined to get rid of as many Gazans as possible. The Egyptians are too smart for this. They're not going to let them get into Sinai or anything like that. Netanyahu doesn't have control of this anymore. He's up against an enemy that's using innocent people as shields. He's up against an enemy that's hiding all over the place. And and your viewers may know that in urban warfare, nobody is safe. In urban warfare,
Ramadan is coming. I mean, the Muslim holy month of fasting starts next week, and that's been set as a deadline for a resolution on a ceasefire. SBS News is reporting that Hamas negotiators have stayed in Cairo for an additional third day of ceasefire talks. Kamala Harris has been the first senior official to say that there must be a ceasefire for this 6 weeks. She's the first US official to say that. What are our chances, Joe, of getting a 6-week ceasefire, and is that the right way to go?
I think the chances are very little, and I'm not sure it's the right policy anyway. There are probably only 50 hostages left. And Hamas doesn't want these people to get out. These are people who can probably tell you all kinds of stories about what's happened to them, what happened to them when they got there. I mean, they've got some dreadful stories to tell. As I say, there are probably only 50 of them left. And the idea is that Hamas doesn't want to let them go unless they get sort of a track to a permanent ceasefire. And Netanyahu's doing any of this because he's under pressure from the Biden administration to do something. And Biden's people want some kind of relief in there. They want a ceasefire. They want this to stop, okay? They just want this to stop. It's just an optic that they can't watch every day. Not just Arab Muslims in America, but many Americans are sort of freaked out by what they're seeing on the evening news and all these dead children, et cetera, et cetera. So, and of course, the reason that Benny Gantz went to Washington is because the Biden administration, and I'm talking about Biden, Harris, and the Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, they'd given up on Netanyahu. During the Vietnam War, Damian, if President Johnson or President Nixon didn't like a Vietnamese leader, or even John Kennedy before that with the Diem brothers, we just got a new guy, If we can't get this guy to work for us, we get the next guy. And I think the Biden administration has had a gutful of Benjamin Netanyahu. They've given up on him, so they're going to turn to Gantz, who's going to make his challenge very shortly. And of course, After this, Netanyahu will probably go to jail on some corruption charge, and so he doesn't know what to do.
Final question. Why doesn't the Arab world help more? Why aren't they taking care of the Gazans? Why does Egypt not open the border? Why are we not seeing money flooding in from the rich oil states to help refugees? Or why are the oil states not taking refugees in?
Well, because they don't want to depopulate the place. They believe that the Palestinians have a right to that territory, and if they leave, they'll be complicit in Netanyahu's plan to depopulate the population of Gaza. They don't want to be seen to be part of it. You're quite right. When the Ukrainians were in trouble, 14 million of them left for overseas, probably not going to go back anyway. And, everybody received them. But in this case, the Arab Muslim world is committed to the two-state solution, though there really isn't a two-state solution. It's always been a sort of.
So what's your crystal ball prediction of how this ends, Joe?
Well, I could say the easy thing, Damian, it's going to end badly. This would be a war of attrition. And, at the end of the day, when they get tired of killing each other, it will stop. And I think it's starting to have negative effects on the Israeli population. When you send all those young reservists into this combat zones, and they see all this death and destruction, and you see all these kids dying of dehydration and starvation, the rest of it, I think it has a morally corrosive effect on the Israelis who would look for some kind of a just solution. And it's all going to backfire. Just finally here, I want to say the other day when I saw those American planes dropping food on some beach in Gaza. Damian, we've reached the point now where American diplomacy is about dropping TV meals, TV dinners on a beach. It's shameful. We have nothing better to do than give them some food in a little package. We didn't send them water or medicine or anything. It was sort of this hollow gesture. Look at us, what we're doing. Anyway, I think Netanyahu will probably go to jail at the end of the day. I think the peace will be one of attrition. That is, when the peace of exhaustion, when there's nothing left to destroy and you can't find anybody anyway. And you're right. I think the Arab Muslim world is going to have to come to the party and rebuild Gaza. It's gone. Gaza is gone. Commerce, finance, education, health, the future of all those young kids there. But, this all goes back to President Biden. He said that after he beat Donald Trump, that he was back and that America was back in control. As you can see, America's not in control, can't control one of its great allies in the Middle East. We've become bystanders in places where we should have taken the lead, and we're paying a very heavy penalty, but not as much as the people on the ground.
Yeah. Professor Joe Siracusa from Curtin University in Perth, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today, Joe.
Okay, thank you.